Hello everybody, welcome. I'm No02, and up until this point in our beginner's guide, we've talked about like the fundamentals of retreating and why unit preservation is so important. And then we've also talked about early game capture order and the sort of basics of winning a fight and how that all connects to economy. We're sort of go horizontal now with our understanding. We're into the nitty gritty of seconds saved or lost, particularly with using hotkeys. The whole idea here is that we're going to be using hotkeys so that we can keep the cursor in the center of our screen as much as possible and actively maneuvering and microing our units. That will allow us to get the most combat effectiveness out of them. And hotkeys is the primary way in which we do that. And as you get higher and higher up, those seconds that we will be saving with our hotkey usage, those seconds get more valuable. And two things in particular here that I want to point out is toggle tactical map and focus event queue. We're in the default profile as far as hotkeys are concerned. And when we think about where our hand is going to be, we're thinking about like retreat being a button that we push a lot. So that's on R. Think about where M is and how far you potentially have to click that and how often you might be clicking that. And so I would recommend potentially rebinding this key. If you are going to be keeping your hand on the left, like most side of your keyboard, then M is kind of far away. That's obviously not the biggest deal in the world, but for me, I actually have tactical map toggled to caps lock. It's super easy, comfortable, convenient key to push rather frequently. Next, focus event queue. Its default bind is delete. I don't think I've ever pushed delete in an RTS game. And again, if our default hand position on a keyboard is all the way to the left, then delete is more all the way to the right. And so I would actually recommend changing it to space. If you ever played, well, frankly, almost any other RTS game, maybe in particular Blizzard RTS games, StarCraft and Warcraft, a focused event queue is default spacebar. And that's, the game will typically give you an audio cue, like, grenade, ah! Hitting the focus event queue will take you to that squad that said the thing, or this unit's finished building. Hitting the event queue will take you to that unit that's just finished building. So I actually find that this is the most egregious of the weird bindings that Relic has done with delete on focus event queue, where like it should just be spacebar, in my opinion. At least that's my experience. And if you don't want to use spacebar is default to tactical pause. We cannot use tactical pause in online mode, so spacebar is way too valuable of keyboard real estate for us to dedicate to a thing that we can't use at all. So you should absolutely be binding something to your spacebar hotkey. I chose focus event queue, even though the focus event queue is not quite the best. Or the audio cue for grenade and the grenade event queue actually getting into the stack of things going on are not quite lined up, so you can hear the audio cue for grenade, hit spacebar, and it will not take you there because the grenade event queue hasn't actually been added yet. Very annoying. But it's still just, in general, a good RTS practice or habit to have. Now, if you're somebody who likes to use the WASD to set up to move the camera, note that tactical map is Control M. Again, change tactical pause because it's on spacebar. We want something else. Focus event queue is my recommendation, but tactical map pause. M in general makes more sense because once you do the WAS setup, your grid keys shift all the way over to like RTYU. And so now M is not that far away at all. But now that we're in the middle of our keyboard, hitting control and managing our control groups gets a little wonky. And I personally am not a WAS key player, so I'll leave it up to you to sort of get a feel for setting up control groups and things like that, but I would highly recommend that you get rid of the Control M for using your tactical map. It's something that you'll end up using way too often for you to be hitting two keys to activate its functionality. I would even recommend, if you're going to be using WASD, at least switching R and U, because this is retreat on the U key, and any game of this particular genre, almost 100% of the time, 99% of the time, retreat will be bound to R. So for the sake of consistency and like it translating to other games and other Company of Heroes games, I think I would bind this to R. Just like in my humble opinion. And if you like the idea of using WAS, but you've been using the default profile, highly recommend that you just switch this over to R. It'll help with the learning curve significantly. And then like these keys, right? Like again, I would recommend sort of just like making a better straight line with these keys. This is the setup specifically that I have here. I have tactical pause bound to a mouse key button because I use it for replays, watching my own replays and pausing and taking notes and thinking. Tactical map is put on caps lock. It's very comfortable, very close to where my hand setups. Focus event queue is on spacebar. And then I want to go down to army management. These are two things here that I think can very easily get overlooked and potentially can save a lot of time, because these are sometimes annoying things to activate and maneuver, particularly the battle group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are default set to control plus F1. Control, like for me, I don't know about your hand, but like that's like pinky fingers on control and then your pointer is all the way up on the F1 keys. It's like a weird, it hurts my wrist, right? I rebound these, and let me explain. These are the airplanes, the skill plane buttons, right? You unlock an ability through your battle group. These are the command point activatable abilities. So whether it be the flying reinforcement or calling in a strafe plane or whatever, these are those hotkeys. And so personally, I like to set them up to something way more comfortable to hit. So I have them set up for like Control A, Control S, Control D, Control F, where I hit those two buttons, and then it will bring up the reticle for doing your airplane strafe or your bombing, whatever you have it, right? But way more comfortable, way faster. Army ability, these are the like DAC call-ins. If you end up going for the air support center on the USF HQ upgrade, then it falls into these categories as well. Again, just like Control Z, X, C, V. Very comfortable to hit. It allows you to basically manage those things way more easily, because if you think about where they are, they're typically on the left and the right side of your screen. You're moving your cursor all the way to the right side, clicking on a button, and then having to move it to the center of your screen somewhere, and then click and drag to do the strafing run attack and things like that. It gets clunky. It gets sort of annoying if like maybe you're trying to do that and it doesn't work quite right away, and then you have to like maneuver a unit. Again, just like seconds begin to add up when it comes to all this stuff. And so that is what I would highly recommend. I even like to take advantage of my tilde key, which is the key right next to 1 and below escape. Typically is associated with like pulling up the command menu in a lot of games. I have that bound to control group 0. It's like an additional button that I can push that's near my hand, where it typically is on a keyboard when playing RTS games. Get used to using it. It's an additional control group that you can just very comfortably and quickly jump to, and it's not really an issue. My recommendation for getting better at control groups and using hotkeys just in general is when you are playing in a match, whether it's against a bot or somebody else, and you mouse click a upgrade or mouse click a production building to do whatever, I would say cancel whatever you've built and then make yourself push the hotkey. I think you may have even seen me do it in some of my Noob to Mastery matches, where I'll, be in the heat of something, open up a thing and click the button to upgrade my rifleman squad with a bar, which for me is default T. Then I would cancel the bar and go, no, I need to hit the hotkey, and then hit it. And that right there, every time you don't use a hotkey, cancel whatever it is that you were doing, and then make yourself hit the hotkey, start building that muscle memory. It'll pay off in seconds and times. Seconds and times turns to whatever, minutes and coffee cups in a year. You know that song. That's my recommendation. Help you save time, help things more fluid, and sort of like helps you turn your keyboard into like a piano. Become a beautiful magician of RTS games as your fingers flurry across the keyboard, all of them having purpose and functionality. It's actually really, really fun. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the future.